What that can happen when you tilt your focus towards the possibility of what you are looking towards, and you are headed for, rather than continually dreaming and believing a thing but looking at the opposite direction. This is why we started the Meet Your Husband series, an initiative of the Meet Your Husband organization, which will simply help women meet and marry their husband, which and where we simply help women meet and marry their husbands. The world that you were born into doesn't exist any longer. And so it's the importance of working with a coach to get some things figured out in this day and age is not something that you should be ashamed of. And that is why we came in to start out the Meet Your Husband process for women who believe that they have been long on this journey, but nothing has been coming forth to help you see some things that you are not seeing and align you in ways that you may not even have thought of. Our series is in alignment with that vision, and today we have an amazing guest joining us, Mrs. Kemi Tony-Akinwunmi. I will just get right into it. Yes, we're getting right. Cannot wait. She's joining us already. We'll dive right into the question. This is episode 7. We have come so far. So, hey, if you missed other episode, make sure that you join us. Good morning, Mrs. Kemi. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you can hear me.
Morning, good morning, Nkechi. Glad to be here. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank God. After everything, we finally made it. Yeah. Okay.
Why is Instagram doing this morning? But finally.
Yes, finally, yeah. Okay, so Mrs. Kemi is a family life practitioner, specifically relationship, but I want you to know we're just going to speak a bit about her profile as it relates to her marriage. There's much more to know about her beyond this brief reading. So I want you to know, and you can find that on our page. She has been married for 14 years. She got married at the age of 28. She met her husband in Lagos. She's a family life practitioner. She's Yoruba from Ogun State. Her husband is from Ondo State. He's a Christian and she's a Christian as well. I will just go right into the first question, which is the theme of the show. And Mrs. Kevin, the question is, how did you meet your husband? Thank you to everybody that is joining us live.
Yeah. Okay. I'm delighted to be here again. Thank you, Nkechi, for all that you are doing. You're such an amazing, fantastic, beautiful young woman. I super celebrate you for the passion that you carry, for the concern, the burden in your heart. You know, and I see that you are not relenting at all, trying to get out your message, connect to the people that, you know, God has sent you to. I celebrate you and I thank you for giving me the platform to come share, you know, with you and other people that will be joining us, you know, live this morning. All right. So the question is how I met my husband. Right. Straight to it. One of my friends, you know, at that time had just finished from College of Journalism, and we were to go, you know, do an IT, maybe 3 months or 6 months or thereabout. So I'll just, you know, call up friends, call up uncles, anybody who could, you know, help me get into somewhere I could do my intern at that time. But none was forthcoming, but I got tired staying at home. So I had a friend, like 2 or 3 streets from my house. That was where she worked. She was working at that time. It was like an eatery, you know, a confectionery house, kind of. So I'll just go there, chat, play, you know, just while away time, pretty much. And so once a while I go there, but on this day I went, and this my friend, I usually borrow some of my books. Anytime I'm going, I'll go with my books, my, you know, my messages, sermons, the ones I know that she would like. I used to borrow her there. So I would just go, you know, and then I used to see my husband. I saw him maybe once or twice. My husband now was our boss. you know. So anytime I'm around, hi, hi, hello, hello. So nothing really. But eventually one day, I gave her some of those, my materials, my books, and then she
Mm.
borrowed him. And I usually don't joke with those my books at that time, even till now anyway. You know, I give you my books 2 weeks, 1 month, I want them back. I give you my CDs, I want my books back. So I've been
Kind
happy,
of borrowing it forward to another person.
you know, she already, she said he saw the books with her. I remember 2 books and 2 tapes, and then he requested, you know, now my Oga, there's nothing I can do. My Oga has requested for it. I had to give him. Long story short, I went there that day and I was not happy with her that she has been promising to give me back my books. At that time, she hadn't even told me. She hadn't told me, mentioned to me that she gave it to our boss. So anyway, we were having a bit of, you know, conversation around it, and then he just walked towards us and then interrupted and came and said, he's sorry, oh, he borrowed the books. He really liked the books. He hasn't finished reading it. Can I please give him a little more time? So at that time, I had no choice. That maybe I don't go sack my friend. Oga, you can have the book. It's okay. I would expect it when next I come, you know. And that was my very first contact, very first meeting with him. And so the next time I went, he gave me my book and requested for another. So I told him, Oga, if I give you my book, it's 2 weeks, so 1 month you will return my book. So we laughed about it, we joked,
Exactly.
and that was how I can say that's how I met my husband. I met him by visiting a friend who was working somewhere, and then we became friends from there. That was how I met him.
That's very unique, quite unique from all the stories that we have been hearing. So, Mrs. Kemi, how did things now start metamorphosing from that just, oh, take my book, give me back my book in 14 days? So, how did things now move from that phase to even friendship? If you can even take us to the friendship part before we even move to dating.
Right. So my friend came to me one day and said, my boss liked you. That
Ah,
and she already told him that don't come to my friend. She's a no-nonsense person. Just leave her alone. She's too serious. Don't even try and distract her. That girl you see, blah, 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 you know, that was her response to him. And that, but he kept coming to her that, I like this, your friend. And then one day, he mentioned to her that your friend is my wife. And that she
ah.
just laughed and said, you are not even a friend. You don't even know what. I'm telling you, this is not a, you know, you are saying wife. Okay, Oga, I wish you well. Whatever fantasies you have in your head. But she just told me this was much later anyway. She didn't tell me all of that at that time. But I would go, I would visit. We kept giving each other books. So I also told him to borrow me one of the books he has, which is something I still joke with my husband. He came that day and brought this book, I've forgotten the title, but it looks like 7 demons for 7 kinikon prayer. I say, this one, this one is hard though. I don't think I've ever read, you know, such a book, 7 demon kinikon prayer kind of books, you know. How we read books on financial intelligence, relationship, and then personal development. But that was the book he gave me, and we always joke about it that why would you be giving me? So anyways, to cut the long story short, we became friends. It was pretty much easy because I would go visit my friend. He's around. Hi, hello, hello. How was your day? What's up with you? So I'll tell him I'm trying to get a job, trying to do something. And I think sharing the books connected us more because he would then ask me, he saw a flyer in one of the books I gave him. I said, yes, I was at that program, you know, a while back. And he would tell me, if there's anyone coming up, I should inform him. He would like to, you know, go with me. And when the time comes, why not? I'll give him the flyer. You know, at that time, there was a lot of, we do more of hard copy, you know, flyers. I'll give him the, right. And so we just kept talking. It was smooth, it was free, because at that time, to be honest with myself, with you, I wasn't ready for any serious relationship. You know, I was 21, I was going to be 21. I wasn't, I'd had a guy in church who I thought was a good guy, we were friends. I later realized maybe not now. I was too just, life was very, important for me, focusing on myself, developing myself at that time. But we were friends. And then he would invite me to his church. They are having a youth meeting. I should come. I would go, we'll talk, meet his people, saw that people liked him. It was, he was a leader in his church. And at that time, I was also a leader in my church. So I remember that one of the programs we had in church at that time, I'd invited him over to my church, and I was the one teaching during that event. It was our singles, it was our singles, our national singles conference, I remember. And I was the assistant.
Miss Kemi, so I call you teaching since 1966. Okay.
Oh yeah, so I was the one anchoring and teaching at that event. So he came over and he was like, wow, you did so well. We are having a youth program in my church. Would you also like to come, speak to our young people? I said, why not? I'd love to be there, and then he invited me. We were there, I was there, and some of his youth were already like, is that your, because at that time as well, he wasn't in any relationship. And so I could see some of them, giggling, trying to make, passes, is that? And he was like, no, she's just my friend, because we hadn't had any conversation around anything relationship. We were just mutual friends. We kind of share, same interests. I said I loved God. He was a leader in church. He was very, very upright. People at work liked him. They talk, they have good comments about him. I saw that he was very focused as a young person. At that time, he was done with ICANN before he was 24 or thereabout. I just saw someone who was, highly, ambitious and focused. And so we were friends. That was pretty much how things, just went. And he will invite me, programs, church. We have something at work, I have a case in church, because he was a youth pastor. He had quite a lot of young people also come to him to seek his opinion and advice on several things. And sometimes he will run them by me. Oh, what do I think? What should he tell that person? So that was how, up until today, I would even tell him that, so I don't even know how you proposed to me. You shall just cajoled me. We were talking. And then 6 months passed, 1 year passed. There wasn't any conversation around are we dating, but also in my head, I wasn't ready for any serious, but I understand friendship because I always have friends around me, male, female. I just thought, yeah, we could be friends. I kind of like him because talking to him, having conversations, seeing the kind of lifestyle, he is living, which is he currently still, lives out. I just liked him. And maybe that answers your question. That was how things went on. And we were friends for, like I said, over 6 years before we got married. So friendship, dating, courtship, engagement, buesha. It took about 6
years. Okay, wow. So okay, that's because I was trying to connect how you got married at 28 when you met him at 21, but I think that's good. That has explained it to us, just the number of years that the friendship and relationship and everything took place. So now, Mrs. Semi, through your journey of dating, or no, there's one part I have to ask before I move to the journey. Can you, to the best of what you can remember, can you remember the part where, at the point where you said you wanted to move things up a notch? If you could remember that, to share that with us, we usually like that kind of that story. Yeah. So you did it a restaurant, or maybe you were just reading, it was a program, just like, oh, by the way, Kemi, can we take things up? At one point, did he move things from just friendship to at least dating relationship?
All right. So I'm trying to remember actually, because like I said, I always joke that I don't even know when you guys, you actually, put the question across. But I remember that he would always like to tell me his plans. I see someone who every time we meet, he's always telling me what's up with him. He wants to take a course, he's looking for a job, this happened to his mom, his sister is blah, blah, blah. It was just very, we had those conversations. And sometimes I wonder, if I'm not really a good friend, a nice friend, someone you are close to, you probably wouldn't be telling me all of those stuffs, And he was very concerned about what I wanted to do as well. I remember part of when I met him, I had to write JAM, because I just done my OND at that time, but I wanted to still further my education and go into the uni. And I had challenges with, writing JAM. He would support, we would talk, he would explain, he would even help me with maths, So I think our friendship deepened over time, that I knew this person wanted more. But I remember a particular event. We had gone to an event with Pastor Sam, Success something around the Keja. And he had told me ahead of time that we were going to go for a lunch date after then. And I said, okay, why not? Yeah, so we finished from the events, and then we went all the way to Egbeda. We got to Egbeda, we ate, we did all of that. And he told me, and before that time, that my friend had told me, after maybe about a year or two, that, hey, this is my Oga, because he was still in that company at that time, said from the first day he saw you, he knows you are going to be his wife. So when he mentioned, I mean, why would somebody see me? I even got irritated. Why would you see me first day? And you will just conclude that will be you don't even know where I'm coming from. You don't know, maybe I'm a, you don't know, maybe whatever, But
maybe I'm a spirit or something.
After 2 or 3 times and say I'm going to. So when that lady mentioned, I said, well, he hasn't told me. Perhaps the conversation we are having, he knows that if he mentioned that to me, I'm going to actually question a lot of things about his level of, knowledge and all of that. But he just told me he wanted to be my friend. We're already friends. We are friends. We are close. Everything, blah, blah, blah. And because I also liked him, right? So later he told me that, his mom wouldn't want someone from Ogun State. And I'm from Ogun State. So we were just having that conversation, So I said, okay, so what do you think? He said, it's not going to be a problem. He's already praying about it. He's already, trying to find a way around it. Everything's going to be sorted. I said, well, me, I know you are my friend. As at this moment you are telling me, in my head, I've not concluded anything serious about you, but we are good friends, So things just went on like that. And we became friends. The things we talked about, the things he shared with me, the experiences we had, there was a definite time I knew that we are taking, but I can't really say how the conversation came about, but a lot of things happened that made me realize, okay, this is what, we wanted out of this. And it was well defined for the good of us when we understood that, okay, now this is who this guy is, this is what he wants. Am I ready to, go on this journey with this person? But I always emphasize on the friendship we had. It was beautiful. It wasn't, so it didn't make our transition difficult, because we pretty much knew a lot about each other. We knew our, the kind of mindset we had, the kind of value we share, the kind of things we wanted out of life. And it would have been that I wanted someone like that as well as a partner, right? But there had to be a action and a acceptance at some point. But our friendship just made everything pretty much easier for us. But yes, there was a time he had the conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Kemi. So during your dating period, what would you say were the defining factors that made you both certain that you were meant for each other? Because at least graduating from friendship now to dating, what did you both see in each other? At least you, like from your person, what did you see in him to give you that conviction? Because marriage is now a different level entirely, and we'll get to all of those, asking you questions, general questions, just about what's happening in the world today. And some people don't even know the difference, who to marry, when to marry, they should not marry, what questions to ask, and so on and so forth. So what was convincing for you? What were the convincing factors that made you say, okay, this is my husband, beyond even just dating, and we can go ahead to now tie the knot?
Right. So we went through quite a lot of challenges. Like I said earlier, the mom didn't want someone from Ogun State, where I come from. So when we started dating, when we knew that we are taking our relationship to a more committed, level, and it was evidence to the both of us that we liked each other, we wanted to be together. And so he already knew that was going to be a challenge in that area, where how do I communicate to my mom that this is the lady I'm dating and she's from Ogun State? So he was already preparing my mind that there's going to be a bit of resistance from the mom. And so we were just praying, and And I just left it open that, yeah, I like you. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, I'll just trust that God had a better, plan for me. So, but some of the things that got our friendship was consistent. It was smooth. It wasn't an off and on thing. I saw someone who wanted to be with me and who was willing to stick his head in whatever mess or whatever, situation was ahead. I saw someone who was concerned about the future, especially because coming from a background for my husband where he didn't know so much of his father. The father was an absentee father. He wasn't, a responsible one at that. So he missed a stable family. But because there was a time in his life he lived with the uncle of his who had a beautiful family, So living with that family brought the consciousness to him that it's possible to have a great family, even though, you were coming from a background where it seems that you never had a good example. So I could see that. I saw someone who I can even say he was making that like a mission for him, that I didn't come from one, but I'm going to make sure I enjoy one and that my children will enjoy one. And that for me was a very, very important thing, that family was important. Marriage was crucial. So I saw someone who I could build with in achieving the kind of family that I wanted, which was what he also wanted. And I'm always very grateful to God that he had the privilege of living without his uncle for the brief time that he was there, aside in some other issues that happened. But the positive side was that he could picture it. So for me, I saw someone who wanted to raise the kind of family I loved, who wanted to build marriage the way I wanted. I saw someone, the love of God was super. I saw someone who wanted to give to others, who had a kind heart. I saw someone who was concerned, who genuinely wants to improve others. He was concerned about, the progress of others. I saw someone who respected me, super. Someone who respected my standard, who respected, my opinions, who respected who I was. I saw someone who enjoyed seeing me thrive in my calling, in my assignment. Someone who doesn't just want to support me, but also, give me the opportunity, the privilege. So I would always say my very first major speaking engagement ever came from my partner, came from my husband, at that time in my early 20s. And then, several other things, but those were very key, and also because during the time we had the back and forth of, how do I get my mom to believe in you? Because what happened to the mom was the other woman who came after my mother-in-law was from Ogun State. And so for my mother-in-law, an Ogun State woman destroyed my marriage. My only son is not going to marry from Ogun State. See me, see Walao. This woman, I don't know. This woman, I don't understand. Did I choose to come from Ogun State? If I had known coming from Ogun State would deny me marrying someone I love, maybe I would have told God. But I couldn't have told my family, So I saw it was quite a tough time for us because we were in love, and the mom wasn't very convinced. At that time, she hasn't even met me. But the fact that she had that you are from this particular state, and then I saw how he defended what he wanted. I saw how he said, is it that this lady, is that everybody aligns with this, or I'm sorry, this is who I want to be with. And at that time as well, I was looking at myself. I'm not sure I want to put myself into all of this mess. There are plenty guys outside. I love you, you love me, but if this thing cannot work, and I was still young anyway, I said, well, I don't, but I saw his tenacity. I saw that it was, it was unwavering. It was consistent. And speaking with some of my mentors as well, that this is my challenge, they would always ask me, how is he? Is the most important factor. If he's beginning to give you attitude, if he's beginning to listen to the mom, if he's beginning to, change on his attitude and all of that, pack your bag. But I didn't see all of that. So that was also another thing that made me believe that our relationship was, meant to stay out. We went to pray, went on the mountain, fasted. We waited about another 2 years because I would have wanted to be married. We were ready to be married earlier than that time, right? But because we wanted to have some of their support and approval, some we got, some we didn't get at some point, but we had to do what we had to do. And it's been 15 years, glory to God. My mom myself and my mother-in-law are best of friends, So those were some of the things I saw that made me realize I want to be here. I want to be with this person. He understands me, I understand him. We have similar ideas. Our values it was easier. It was, this is what I think it is. That's what he thinks it is, right? Not on everything, but on a lot of things. And that made it easier for us to build together because I saw someone who was kind. I saw a loving person who loved God, who was focused, ambitious, and I was in love.
I like how Mrs. Kemi is emphasizing that. Thank you. Yeah. So that people don't just think, oh, you are just marrying somebody you're not happy with. Thank you for that, Mrs. Kemi. Please, I would like you to please share with us how you were both able to navigate your church situation, because you were clearly from different churches. He even invited you to his church at different points in time, even though you have shared that your faith was the same. So at what point or what conversation did you have that now navigated, or which church did you not start going to, or did you not go to church, or was it an issue? Because I'm asking, especially in this generation, oh my God, it's a big deal. It's something that I really don't know what the challenge is. So I like to learn from people's stories so that we can get wisdom on how to navigate it.
Wow. I laughed because I think I was having this conversation with someone.
Okay, you can hear me. I thought you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I said I laughed. I'm laughing because I was having this conversation with someone maybe about a week or two ago, talking about our faith, our church, our religion, and all of that. So when I met my partner and he invited me to his church, when I went to the church, it was okay, But as we moved on in our relationship, I started asking myself those very salient questions that, okay, so fast forward, if I marry this guy, there's a probability that I'll be worshiping in this church. And I answered myself, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And but anytime I had to go, I would go, blah, blah, blah. And so at that time as well, my husband was already going to another church, but he was still in that church. I can say, okay, he has another, how will I put it now? Like a second church, right? Where he goes for their other events, blah, blah, blah. Not as a leader compared to where he was at that time, right? And so I would then encourage him. So let's go to this other church more for other events aside Sundays, blah, blah, blah. Because I could picture that it was going to be a spiritual setback for me in some way. And I didn't even know that at that time in my husband's life as well, he was already praying about that perhaps it was time for him to exit. But he loved his young people there. He loved those people that he was, mentoring and all of that. And he was so concerned about them. I said, you can't be concerned about these people and then remain here. You also have to feed from a higher source wherein you can sustain yourself and then nourish these, younger people if you think that God has committed them into your hands. Right? And so somehow I was just praying about it and he was doing the same. But would it have been a major concern for me or even a determining factor in going ahead with the relationship? I think so. It was major for me because I couldn't find myself, but I wouldn't also say that entirely, because could it be that God would want to lead me there? Perhaps for some assignment. Well, I don't know, because it's been 15 years now. I'm married. I'm not in the church and all of that. But I'm just saying that for someone listening. But at that time in our life, it was something I had to really consider, because spiritual authority, spiritual, feeding was also very important. And you can't just say because we are all Christians. Right now, all over the place, different churches, different beliefs, different doctrines, different understanding, different cultures, and you have to be careful, right? So at that time, eventually, he had to leave. And then, once you are married, you have to go to the church of your husband, worship, or the both of you then come together to agree and say, oh, where do we worship? Because I believe that you have to have That's my belief. You have to have the same, spiritual authority, the same spiritual leaders, even though you may have other mentors in other areas of your life, or even other people who inspire you or support you spiritually, but there has to be an agreement, right?
Yeah.
So for me at that time, it was a concern, but before our relationship got to that major point where it was for me to decide, am I going to marry this person and go on with this church? He already received that understanding for himself, in that he had to begin to, exit. And it was easier, it was smooth. But in hindsight now, if I was a lady at that time and he said he wasn't leaving that church, will I be willing to marry him and stay there? I'm not exactly sure. Except, of course, I hear God to tell me, okay, there's an assignment there for a certain time. The reason why I'm going there is because to correct the wrongs or build a new doctrine, like maybe. But I think it's important anyways that we both agree on where you would worship.
So at the time, not recent now, did you both now come together to choose a new church? Or did he come to your church? Or was it that second church that you both now started going to? Which I believe would be the church that you both now came together to choose.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. At that time, I was partially in my parents' church, and I also had a second church, right? The Orthodox church my parents, were attending at that time was like a major church for us. But I knew I wanted more. I'd always wanted more. I wanted to grow. I wanted to learn more. I was curious. I was hungry. I wanted to expand my mind. And being in that church wasn't feeding me as much as I wanted, right? So I realized that going for programs, going for events, I got into other, denominations that I knew could feed me the way I wanted. So at that time, his second church now became our church, and that's where we still are up until now, right? So it's a matter of discussion on agreeing on where to fellowship as a family.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mrs. Kemi. On the matter of conviction, why do you think that in this day and age, it looks like so many people, young people, when you're young or 30 something, it doesn't even matter now. People want to get married, seem to be confused on signs to look out for to know that the person is the right partner. Why do you think so? Because you see relationships break up, and they are good relationships, just of course the blogs put out the bad ones. But you see marriages rather break up, and then they come and start talking about history that you should have settled down with to make the right decision. So I wanted to find out from you as a relationship expert, why you think people, is it that they see these flags but they think, oh no, I'll work on it, or they are just naive, or it's just people just want to fail, or at least some people. I would like to get your perspective on that.
Right, thank you, Nkechi. There's a lot of factors that affect, the failure of a relationship or marriage in itself. There are several factors. And even as Christians, even as people of faith, if you think you are really convinced, and I say it often, that if you know that, oh, I had God, with whatever parameters you are using to judge that, oh, I know God spoke to me, this is the person I'm supposed to marry. I know I had God spoke to me, this is the person I'm supposed to marry. It is not a guarantee that your marriage would work. Not a 100% guarantee that, oh, I had God spoke to me, and you entered into the marriage with all conviction, with all faith, with all, faith. Maybe in that
process even went ahead of you too and everything.
Right. It's not really a guarantee. And that's also the reason why some people's marriage do not work. Oh, God has said. And then you get into the marriage and you settle. You settle in the sense that God has done his part. God will keep his covenant. He will keep his side of the deal. But for us as humans, do we then fulfill our own side of things? Do we then commit to doing the things, the needful things? Yes, God wants to give us long life. But if you feed on Coke every day, on burger, on cheese, on all of those things every day, and then you are at 20 something, you are down with different diseases and say, oh, God is not faithful. No, it's promised to us is long life, right? But there are some things you also have to do. And those things come at different stages in life, at different ages in life, right? So back to your question, several things. So God speaks to you, yes, your marriage would work. And that is if you then put to practice those things that is expected of you to keep a relationship. There are people who are not Christians and they have amazing relationships. The most important thing right. One of the most important things we need to do to have healthy relationships is to remember that we are humans. The basic, social engagement, to be kind, to be respectful, to honor each other, to love, to be patient, to be forgiving. Those are the very simple principles. But we run away from them. And then we expect to build a great marriage. So, again, you ask, are people not convinced? Are people not are they not doing the right things? They're just going blindly. Are they naive? If you look around everywhere now, there's a lot of us talking relationships. There is a lot of us trying to get the message out there.
Yes.
And truth be told, some of us are getting out the good, some of us are getting out the bad, and some of us are getting out the rubbish, the ugly. So, there is a lot of knowledge, but people are not comprehending. The knowledge out there is not as much as the comprehension, as the understanding, and as the application. As the knowledge is a lot. People, there is 1,001 bloggers, 1,000,001 broadcasts, 7 things to make love last, 11 things to make relationship. We have all of those knowledge, but how are we understanding? How are people digesting these things? And the most important thing, how are we applying them? It's also, it's also worrisome that sometimes the information out there is not even healthy. So there is a lot of confusion as well. There's a lot of confusion, and people, there are a lot of young people who genuinely are looking for the right information, who want to do things right. So my advice to them would be keep searching and keep filtering. You have to keep searching, keep being curious, open yourself up to those knowledge. And also, the more you add to your knowledge, the more you filter, the more you are better at who do I need to listen to and who do I need to run away from. So are people naive? Some are. Are people desperate? Some are. Are people just careless? Let's just get married. When we get into marriage, everything will sort out itself. We'll be fine. Yeah, there's some people like that. But the whole idea will still be that you get the right information. Wherein, what are those things to look out for? What are those things that can make you trust that this relationship to a large extent would work? Because we honestly cannot say that, oh, I guarantee that if you do these 10 things, your marriage will last 100 years. I've only just done 15 years as well. And I'm always evaluating, what have I done in 15 years that has worked, that I need to continue to what? To replicate. I continue to do. The fact that someone celebrates 15 years doesn't guarantee 20 years. If there are things you have done in 15 years and you stop doing them, then that marriage begins to go down. So, few things, because it's a lot actually, few things that will that can, to a large extent, guarantee a healthy relationship. What should I look out for? The first person to look out for is yourself. Look out for yourself.
Okay.
A beautiful relationship starts with me. It starts with me. Who am I? What do I want? Where am I going? What are my dislikes? What are my values? How do I see myself? And that's one thing right now that bothers me. How do you see yourself? Do you love yourself? You are in a relationship, someone treats you like trash and you are still there. It's a sign that you don't love yourself. If you love yourself and value yourself and respect yourself, you pack your bag. Because the way that person is treating you is not going to change in marriage. The way you allow yourself to be treated during courtship is setting the stage for how you would allow yourself to be treated in marriage. There is no, maybe few instances people change and then they get better, but you don't want to marry on hope. You want to marry what you see. It's the package. So it starts with you understanding your values. What are those core values that you have? Value for honesty, value for development, value for love, value for respect and regard. What are those things that you can't they can't confuse you with it. They can't confuse you with it. Do you love yourself? And people wonder, what a question. Is it possible for someone not to love his or herself? Oh, absolutely, it's possible. I can tell if you don't love yourself by the way you allow others treat you. The things you do to yourself. So it starts with you. What do you want out of life? What kind of marriage do you want? What kind of partner do you want? What is it that you cannot compromise on? You must know those things so that people will not confuse you. What are those things you cannot? No, I can't budge on this one. These are my core. These ones are major to me. What do you want out of life? What do you want out of life? Yes, as a human being, because that's where creation starts from. Before you become a wife or mother or any other, what do you want? What makes you happy? Truth is that you may not be able to have all the answers to all these things at a time. But listening to us now, you are having this awareness, you are having this consciousness, you are having this information for you to begin to think about, process it, and gather those answers. Because it would help you along the way. Because knowing all of these things are the factors to then decide who can work with you. Because you are going to have a pool of people, and it will help you to sieve. This one doesn't match, this one doesn't match, this one doesn't match, until you find out, okay, and I have 2 or 3 in my sieve, and then you can pick based on who you are. It starts from you. And sometimes we think that we know ourselves or we know all these things, but when relationship comes, it then becomes anybody goes. You know,
your finance, you won't do it like that. Your health, you won't do it like that. But relationship, like I used to wonder, so why would you do that for any other aspect? But relationship is the one that you must compromise.
Right. So when you compromise, what happens? You don't get the best. Yeah. Oh, do we all compromise? Yeah, you can compromise on the minors, because even if you get married, you would always have to compromise at some point. Compromising really means not even the problem. There are healthy compromises, and there are compromises that can damage you for life. Okay, so can I marry a short, tall person? Those are a minor thing, maybe to some people. Oh, can I marry someone from solo states? Those are a minor thing. But there are some things you cannot compromise on, because if you do, it's going to affect you for a long time, right? Yes. So
thank you so much, Ms. Kemi. We will start to round up soon. Okay. Although we didn't start on the dot, but I have to work with our plan as well. Okay, so I want to, Ms. Kemi, what can we, in just following up this question before I ask other personal question and we wrap up. There seems to be a lot of pool of different advice and knowledge experts, whether so-called or are self-acclaimed or even the real experts online. But a lot of times I see, and I'm not saying it's all the time, but I see that many people like to, even though they know the right thing, they like to follow the wrong thing. For instance, I'm not going to call the person's name here because I'm not going to give the person publicity to continue promoting the bad work that this person is doing. But there's a person who I was even told, I didn't know this person existed. He's a relationship expert in one of the social media. This person is not on all, but just one of the social media, and this person tells people to sleep in with each other, to get the best marriage, what they can stay with, just all this kind of advice. And then you have a lot of people, whether regrinding, retweeting, and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts on people seeing good versus bad, but still following what I want to term nonsense, even though they have been shown the right path? I don't, because I see this happened on Mrs. Kemi. That's apart from those that are naive now. These ones they know, but it's what they want to do. They want to do. I once heard somebody that she thinks that God doesn't take maybe sex before marriage seriously or something. I'm just paraphrasing how the person said it. So people just have all these ideas that they bring together to formulate what works for them. Do you have anything to say regarding that?
I share your concern, Nkechi, and it's also a concern for me sometimes. When you realize that, and that's why I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of us out there, and we are talking relationships.
Yes.
And some of us would. I'm finding it hard to express because anytime I think about it as well, it bothers me, and that tells us this tool called social media, this tool called, this new exposure, this new life that we have come to accept. What Instagram is doing to us, what Facebook is doing to us, what TikTok, what all of these applications, what they are doing to us is a lot of good and is also a lot of mess. I have realized that whatever it is you want to say, you would have your audience. And I've also realized that it appears that right now, a lot of abnormality is becoming the norm for some people. And I would always try to be in the confinement of what I'm in control of. Wherein, how can I also influence the 1, 2, 3 people who believe, who share my values, who believe in what I believe, who are willing to work with me, who are willing for me to either mentor them or coach them or guide them or counsel them. We can't have a perfect world, unfortunately. We can't have a world where all of us will be same. We would always have those people among us. It's a burden, it's a concern, but I would always ask myself, what am I in control of? Like you rightly mentioned, you can't even mention the person's name because you don't know who's going to come after you in a few minutes. It's sad. It's sad that someone says somewhere and says, for you to have a great marriage, you must have had sex. You must. I don't even want to begin to share things like that because it's not even meant for our platform. But it's also good that we communicate them because there are people who are asking, what are we saying? If you want to know what we are saying, go on our page.
Yes.
Come to events like this. Come to meetings like this. We can't have a perfect, but all of us cannot be sane. But the concern is that these are people who have a lot of followers, who have a lot of people who believe in them. And that's to tell you how our society is being shaped by this media, by this tool that we have. And it's sometimes painful when you think that, why would someone, be sharing on things like this? And people are, like you said, retweeting, celebrating. That tells you what we have become because that person is actually part of our society. And it's now also what? Influencing much others. So all that we can do is also to continue from our own spot, from our own space. Because the evidence of lights is just to shine. Let's keep shining. And some people will certainly come to the light. And to all of those people, it's just unfortunate, like you said, that some of them will not come out to tell you the many challenges. So one day someone was told the bad girls are the ones that get the good guys. I said, who told you that? Are the bad girls telling you what is happening in the marriage, the gas balls that is happening there? No, there is a difference between being married and being happily married.
Yes.
Everybody can be married. You can tag anybody and say, let's get down. You will be married, but what is happening? What's the content?
Yes.
How healthy, how positive, how empowering, how beautiful is the marriage? That's what we are after, is the content. It's not just having the band, winning the ring. So it's sad that people are, they are projecting the wrong message. And then we keep, and that's why some of the things we are doing to ourselves, we are going to be reaping, we are going to be seeing the effect a few years from now. what social media has done to marriages especially. We are already seeing it, but it's going to even be more. I'm wishing it doesn't happen, but unfortunately, you can't wish something away that you created.
Exactly, the consequence of actions and seed sown.
Right, and the
Yes.
seed sown. And that's why we can only just do our bit. Anybody that wants to, sometimes I also say that it is not that those who are sharing the right information are also not audible or visible enough. It is just that sometimes too, this person, that's what they want to do. So they now find someone confirming their thoughts, confirming the values. Remember, there are positive values and there are negative values. And so they resonate. There's a connection. Because why can't you, Nkechi, go and listen to people like that? There's something inside of you that is conflicting what that person is saying. So sometimes, well, is the connection inside. You get what I mean? You are sharing what I already know. And so, yeah, I'm happy there's someone that is confirming it. But let's keep sharing the light. There's no way you are going to meet someone and how to decipher if that person is the right person for you is to have sex. So let me say this as a professional counselor, right? Are there people who have had sex together before they got married and they had a great relationship? Oh, yes. Are there people who had sex before marriage and they have a bad relationship? Oh, yes. Are there people who did not have sex before they got married and they have a wonderful relationship? Oh, yes. Are there people who also do not have sex before marriage and they got married? Oh, yes. Can I be sure which one will pay you? I don't know. So if someone tells me I want to have sex, we want to get married, blah, blah, I don't know what can happen. But one thing I know, if you follow the right process, there is a larger chance, there is a higher chance that you also land, have a good landing. And they'll exactly be able to tell you, if you sleep together, you are going to destroy your marriage. Maybe not absolutely. But would I now make that the principle? No. Would that become the core of my message to you? No. So right.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kemi. I want to speak because conflict is one of the things that divides discussion. Maybe after this, we'll just take 2 more questions and wrap up. How do you handle conflict? How have you handled conflict, both as a professional counselor and as a person in a successful, blissful marriage? And how would you tie all the questions together? How would you advise people to handle conflict? Because this is one of the reasons why people get divorced. They'll say it's irreconcilable differences. However, of course, it's one conflict that was not able to be resolved, whatever that conflict is. So I'd like you to speak to the heart of that, please.
Right. So as a young bride, as a young newlywed, I found it difficult at the time to handle conflict with my partner. My husband comes from a point where if anything is happening right now, let's talk about it now and settle it and let everybody move on. But I didn't kind of buy that idea. Because I know that I can be very expressive with words. So when I'm angry, I try as much as I can to be quiet. And my partner doesn't like it. So at the early stage in our relationship, conflict, my husband will do everything that we don't have any conflict. But unfortunately, we are humans. If we don't have a disagreement, maybe as a result of our personality or money or something, and like I always say, there are different levels of conflict. Every marriage should operate on a mild, level, wherein the conflicts are nothing, so humongous. It's not big enough that can cause a division or degenerate into something, very critical, right? And like I also say, the fact that you have misunderstanding doesn't mean that your marriage is bad. Conflict is inevitable. Friends fight, friends settle. Couples have misunderstanding. So a healthy marriage would have some level of conflict. And the same has happened for me as well in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't stay here and tell you, I met my husband, we don't fight. Never. We have never had any problem. It has been, So we still fought last week, so I should say that. So when I say fight again, let me be. So when I say fight again, let me be careful. You know, it's not both bars. It's not slapping. It's not shouting. It's not yelling. It's not suffering. It's not abuse. It's not never. So I can say in 15 years, my husband has not raised his voice at me. I can say in 15 years, there's never been any confrontational where we are yelling and shouting, and no, never. But are there been times I say, please leave me alone, Oga? I don't want to talk to you right now. Oh yeah, there have been times like that. Right? So conflict in itself is not bad. It is how a couple repair. It is how a couple come back. It is how they manage that time, how they navigate the disagreement. So like you asked me, what have I done, you know, when I began to learn? Initially, early in our marriage, I have books behind me. Some of them I would pick up to read to understand how the mind of a man works when it comes to conflict. So what am I supposed to do differently? How am I supposed to address him? How am I supposed to address this? There's something he has done I'm not happy about. I don't like that we are disconnected. I want to play with my husband. He wants to, but I'm also not happy. So how do we repair? How do we resolve those issues? I realize that communication is very important. You don't want to go all silent on your partner, however angry you are. You want to have a time wherein, can we talk about this later in the night? And then the both of us sit down and we listen to ourselves, we express ourselves. And then I realized that in those moments, it helps us to even understand ourselves better. Wherein, oh, I didn't know that was, you know, you wouldn't appreciate that. I didn't know that, oh, saying that wasn't nice. It helped me to understand my partner better. So having a sitting and to talk, to express yourself, and to apologize, and then take the lessons and move on. And over time, it has also helped me to understand the things my partner do not like, so I avoid them. And so when I avoid those things, conflict also reduces. Because if you are having conflict and you are not taking lessons, you are not going to get better over time. Because nothing happens in time. You have to be deliberate in what you do in the time. So we fought 2 weeks ago. What did I do wrong? What am I supposed to do differently next time? Those really helped. And I was really taking stock of those things, those moments that, oh, okay, it was because of how I rolled my eyes. It was my words. It was my gesticulation. It was, you know, my wrist. You know, just speak those things and then you roll with them, right? And I've also realized that conflict can cause a lot of disunity. It can cause a lot of hindrance. It can slow down your progress as a couple, right? And so I grew and I realized that we always have to tackle the conflict, you know, at the very early stage. You don't want to leave it to, you know, to fester, to 3 days, 1 week, all of those. No. And it takes you being humble anyways, right? You want to be humble to apologize. You want to be humble to say, I'm sorry. You want to be humble to, if you have to go on your knees to plead, to keep your relationship. That's not you being desperate. And if you have to be desperate to keep your marriage, it's a good thing, I believe, especially if it's a working marriage, it is a healthy marriage, right? So conflict would happen. And couple need to give each other the listening ear, wherein you are not perfect. And you are both coming from different background, different perspective, different upbringing. In trying to merge, there will be a bit of friction, right? So those frictions, yes, you would not like it, but if you gradually smoothen things out, you would have patches, but it will not be that bad, right? And then you can pick up from there and begin to do the needful. But if you don't want to change, if you don't want to adjust, if you don't want to compromise, it's going to be difficult to handle conflict because you just want your partner to hear you. You don't want to understand the person. You don't want to apologize. You don't want to amend on your ways. You don't want to, you know, adjust your behavior and attitude. It's going to be there's likely going to be much problem. But conflict in itself it can be a beautiful thing based on how couples manage it, how they handle it, how they repair. Because like you mentioned, yes, if conflict are not handled well, it becomes irreconcilable differences and people want to go their separate ways. And when you realize that this conflict is not something the both of you are managing well, speak to someone. We have mentors we speak with, and we are also I'm also a counselor, right? When the conflicts are becoming, because people think that it's okay to fight every time. No, you want to enjoy more peace.
Yes.
You want to have more happy moments, and then fewer disagreements, fewer misunderstanding that will just last few hours. But early in my marriage, I can say a whole day will go. I'll be keeping malice with my husband. 2 days, I will be, I will not go, I will not go. I will shall be. But I'm like, what's all of this? Am I going to live my life like this? Right? And my husband will say, I know you are a good person. I know you are a nice person, but you are stubborn. Just calm down. Just calm down. But that was many years ago. Right now, anything happens, even me, I want to enjoy my life. Oga, let us sit down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and then you move on. Right? And with time, we'll get better at it. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Mrs. It tells a whole lot. And for even sharing your example, to let people know maybe at the period in the marriage that you were, that they currently are, okay, this is how I can navigate it now that she's sharing this. I want to ask, is there anything you could have done differently when you were getting married, that in retrospect, now anything you could have done differently that may have made things maybe better or easier in the initial days of your marriage? Whether good thing, bad thing, just anything generally.
Yeah, we keep learning, we keep, growing, we keep evolving. Regards my relationship, I had a very beautiful relationship, I must say. And we had time. It was 6 years and more. So, and at that time as well, I was already into what I do now. I was already a family life practitioner, I can't say, even though I didn't have a lot of professional experience and all of that, but I've always been very passionate, reading, sharing my knowledge. So I can say I covered pretty much a lot of areas. Not that I covered all the areas, but nothing comes to mind right now where I can look back and say if I'd known, maybe. But one thing I know is that maybe I would have taken a lot more time to talk about sex while we were dating, but while we were, close to marriage. And not that I shied away deliberately, but church mind, just felt everything would be fine. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that pastor who took us in our premarital counseling, getting us to lighten up and talk about sex and all of those things. And I think another thing I would have done, honestly, nothing really comes to mind. Asking of how I did my relationship and how things has been. But if I'm to say early in marriage, yes, I would say early in marriage. Okay. I managed, like we just mentioned, I managed conflict better. I wish not that I regret some of those times. There were times I didn't know. Like I said, I always wanted to read. If anything happens, I'm coming. So what do I need to read? What do I need to learn? What do I believe that the more you know, the better. And not just knowing, the more you know and apply anyway, the better you can be. But I'm just grateful to God that I was able to, scale through some of those odds and challenges that people would. And I would always say I can attest to that because of the level of curiosity I had. I wanted to read. I wanted to go to events. I wanted to have mentors. I wanted to talk to people who I knew had, could support me, could help me. I didn't want to make the same mistakes some people have made when I can ask them and talk to them and then get the right answers somehow. So that for me, that's it.
And then finally, Mrs. Kemi, what are your thoughts on premarital counseling? There's a whole lot of ideas and ideologies around it now. People are also getting to accept it a whole lot. I must give them kudos. But what are your thoughts on the importance of premarital counseling? And in what ways do you advise people to do it? I ask in what ways because I know people, even personally, that have shared that, they couldn't say all this because maybe their father was the pastor or their friend was the counselor or whatnot. So I am all for church counseling, but I find that sometimes people are restricted. So I would like you to come from that angle. I don't know how we can balance it because I'm not against having spiritual or church counseling. I think that should happen. But in a situation whereby you both know each other there and you are afraid to say some things, what should they do? Is it that you should do church counseling and then also buy a package outside from someone as well? How can we balance it out so that we don't have problems in marriage that could have been avoided?
Right. Thank you so much, Nkechi, for that question. I am a what's the word now? I'm very, very particular about people in relationship getting the right knowledge. So when you ask me what is my take on premarital counseling, my take is that every young person who is in a relationship, who already has an idea that I'm likely to settle down with this person, even before you get to that point, please speak with someone, and not just anybody. Like you said, there are some spiritual organizations right now who are doing a lot of revamping, a lot of updating their counseling units in their many churches. And I really give kudos to those churches, right?
Yes.
But we still have a lot of churches who are behind, who the model they still use are 40, 50 years old, that really can't capture the reality of this time. It can't capture the realities of the marriages we have now. So premarital counseling is very important. It's highly important. There are several things you think you have discussed that you don't even know, you haven't touched on. That coming into counseling helps you to realize, help you to understand marriage itself, helps you to check yourself on your level of awareness, on your level of preparedness, helps you to weigh your option if this person is the right person, based on the very core things we are going to use to evaluate your relationship. Premarital counseling gives that platform where you can express yourself openly, honestly, without judgment, without condemnation, sharing your thoughts, your concerns. Premarital counseling gives you that benefit where you can learn on communication, on conflict, like we have said, on sex, on in-laws, on home management. The chunk of my work is around premarital counseling, and I thoroughly enjoy taking intending couples through that process. There are some people who come in for premarital counseling, and yes, they realize that it's not time to be married. Some come into some take our course and they realize that I have to actually focus on myself first. Some come into the course and realize that this person is not who I'm supposed to marry. I have had people come for my premarital counseling and they didn't get married. They had to agree that they are not ready. They are not even meant for each other. What did I say to them? Nothing, just evaluating it, asking questions. And they realize that they have not even touched on a lot of critical aspects of marital life. So premarital counseling has a lot of benefits that can help you start your marital life on the right note. And like I always say, the fact that you're coming for premarital counseling may not guarantee 100% that your marriage would be successful, but trust me, it will guarantee that your marriage can start on the right note. And if you consistently do those things that you will learn and put the principles to work, you have a great marriage. You have a great marriage. So knowledge, applying it is key. People should embrace it. And right now is a lot better than what it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
The need. Yeah, people are coming in for session. They are coming in to be coached, to learn more on how to make relationship work. And it's sometimes now I want to run away from, making your marriage work is hard. Perhaps it's not hard. It's just that people are not doing the right things, right? And maybe if it's not, it can be easier. It can be simplified. If you have the right knowledge, have the right coaches, and you are willing to put things to practice, it will go a long way, and we can have more marriages around the world, I believe.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Kemi. We have to do this in 2 minutes, if you will. We just want to ask your rapid fire question and then we close out. So you're not supposed to take time in responding to it. That's how we can achieve our 2 minutes. Yes, you're just supposed to answer it as quickly as possible. If not, we'll achieve our 2 minutes. But it's not a lot of questions. The first one is, what is your favorite color?
Purple.
Okay, what is your favorite food?
Food, yam.
Okay, what are you allergic to?
Nothing. Allergic
to. What is your best movie?
PK.
Okay, your best book.
Which book am I reading now? My best book, The 7 Seasons of Marriage. Maybe that.
Were you giving birth to in Nigeria?
Yes, so in my house, in my parents' house. Yes.
Oh, okay. If you were not born into Nigeria, what country would you have liked to be born into?
Norway.
Did you say Norway or Norway? I didn't get
Norway.
that.
Why nowhere? Norway.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. I that would have been the first. Okay. Gold or silver?
Silver.
Black or white?
White.
Yellow or pink?
Both. Pink. Pink.
Okay. What is one favorite thing about your husband?
There's a lot, so he's kind.
Okay. What is one favorite attire for you to wear? One favorite attire for you to wear?
I wear jeans if I have my way every day. Jeans.
Okay. Okay. What is your favorite thing to do?
Dance, exercise, swim.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you like to do for fun?
I'll just be my friends, call a friend, and maybe go swimming. Yeah.
Okay. Small chops or jollof rice?
Oh, jollof rice. I didn't hear that.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
A train or a ship? Would you rather use railway or waterways?
Train.
Okay. Bus or an airplane? Can you? Oh.
I didn't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you for a while. I said a bus or an airplane?
Airplane now.
Writing or speaking?
Speaking.
Okay. Rain or sunshine?
Sunshine.
Trainings, that's group trainings or one-on-one counseling. Which one do you prefer?
Why? Both. Why? Counseling.
Okay, how do you prepare to learn, audio or visual?
Audio. Okay, I don't know. I enjoy both, but more auditory.
A day at the beach or a day in one of your favorite restaurants?
I didn't hear that.
A day at the beach or a day in one of your favorite restaurants?
I'll go to the beach.
Okay, if you had the superpower, we all have superpower, but if you could change one thing in Nigeria today, what would that one thing be and why? Just one thing.
I would make a policy that there should be 2 days off work every week.
Okay, that's unique. Okay, and then finally, Mrs. Kemi, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, I want to be remembered for being a happy woman that helped quite a lot of people to do relationship right and build a healthy marriage.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kemi. How can people reach out to you if they want to reach out to you? This will be on YouTube. Thank you for those that will be watching. Please share, subscribe, leave your comments as well. So to reach Mrs. Kemi, is there a way we can reach you or simply through your Instagram at Kemi Talking, or would you prefer any other medium?
You can hear me. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. You can repeat what you were saying again.
I'm sorry. I'm having a call coming. That's why.
Oh, okay. Thank God, we're already even done. Okay, I just want to know how you can be reached or how you prefer to be reached.
Can you hear me? Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
can. You hear
hear you now.
All right.
I can hear you now.
So yeah, you can reach me via my DM. You can send me a direct message on Instagram. You can reach me on Facebook, Kemi Tony-Akinwunmi. It's my name on Facebook. At Kemi Talking on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I can give her my contact 0705-681-6094. You can also, you can call me on that number or WhatsApp. And my Instagram page is also there for you to reach me on. Thank you so much, Nkechi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kemi. Thank you for investing your time with us. And we'll see you on another episode. Bye. Thank you to everybody that joined me.
God bless you. I really appreciate you. My love to your family. Take care. Bye.